What's up, everybody? My name is Adam McDormand, and today we are going to talk about an assignment that you're going to do for my class every single week. In this class, you will always have a reading assignment every single week without fail. We will never take a week off. We will never skip a week. There will always be a reading assignment of some kind. And to accompany that weekly reading, you are going to have an active reading guide that you write for me every single week. The purpose of this video is to go over the components of that and discuss what you need to do in order to be successful, because this is not simply a worksheet that you fill out. This is not a 5-paragraph essay. This is a writing assignment that is very specific to the levels of thinking that I want you to engage the text with. This will make a little more sense once we jump over to Microsoft Word and take a look at what this assignment will actually look like. I've put together a template for this active reading guide assignment, and yours will look very similar to this, except you'll swap out a couple of the sort of template pieces for the actual content of the assignment. You'll see something that probably looks somewhat unfamiliar to you if you're used to the MLA format, and that is a section heading. This is not something you will use often in your papers, but for our purposes, for ease of use, so that as I look at 100 of these every single week, I can very quickly see where each section is and make sure that you're accomplishing what I want you to accomplish there. We're going to go ahead and use them to our benefit. And you'll leave these headings exactly the way they are. Underneath that heading is an explanation of what should go in that paragraph, but it's in the place where that paragraph should be. So when you get around to actually doing your first one, all you need to do is select this bit of text and start typing your active reading guide. In the first paragraph of your active reading guide, you will demonstrate your comprehension of the text by writing a summary of that assigned reading. One of the major functions of this paragraph is that it establishes the context for the rest of what you're going to write in this active reading guide. So very much like the intro paragraph of a classic 5-paragraph essay, you will provide enough context that whoever is reading this will be able to understand what you mean whenever you make your claim at the end of that paragraph. I think it's helpful to think about how you would write this active reading guide if you were trying to walk, let's say, your aunt through the text that you've just read, right? You see her at Thanksgiving break, you hand her a stack of active reading guides because she wants to know what you've been doing over at Valley Christian High School, and she reads it, and in theory, she should be able to walk through your ideas. Not that she actually would want to do that, but let's just say that's our target audience to some degree. So that means at the end of your intro/summary paragraph, you must make a claim as to the meaning or importance of the text that you've been assigned to read. And that claim is going to be highlighted in yellow. Okay, highlight your claim in yellow. If you don't, you will lose points. All you have to do is select your sentence, and then at the very top, almost right in the center of your home tab, you'll see a little highlight icon. You can tap that. For your claim, use the yellow highlight color. And that's basically the end of your summary paragraph. Next, you'll have an empty space and our next section heading, which is level 2, analysis. We're moving one step deeper in our understanding of that text. Just like the section before it, the paragraph that's on this template is actually an explanation of what should go into that paragraph. So you can select this and start typing whatever. In the second paragraph of your active reading guide, you're going to demonstrate your analysis of the text by discussing what that text means. This might involve discussing a major theme of the text. It might involve discussing what you think the author is trying to accomplish with the text. It could be about the historical significance of that text, or even how that text critiques the society of that time, which is something I find particularly interesting. You will do this by including at least 2 pieces of textual evidence from your assigned reading, and you're going to highlight that evidence in green. You will highlight your claim in yellow, and you will highlight your evidence in green. Very similar to what we just went over. Highlight the piece of evidence that you have, select a little highlight icon in the center of the Home tab, and pick that second option there. It should be green. Please keep in mind that this is practice for formal writing. So you need to, as best you possibly can, follow formal writing conventions, right? This is not conversational in its tone. You should not be using first person personal pronouns like I, me, or we. This is practice for formal writing. Now, the key to doing well in this section of your active reading guide is making sure that you use evidence to support the claim you made in your intro/summary paragraph, being detailed enough that you can actually convince whoever your reader is, your auntie that you see during Thanksgiving this year, that whatever claim you've made is true. Now, American literature students, often when we are introducing a new text, I will give you some key information that gives you a hint as to what your paragraph 2 should be about, as to what you should be looking for when you're analyzing this text. That way you can have an idea in your head as you're reading. That's why it's very important that you pay attention during those lectures. I'm not just doing it for fun. I'm trying to give you some assistance, some guidance so that you can get the most value out of this text. Now, for my AP Literature students, all of what was above that paragraph still applies, but instead of picking something that you think is interesting or important about that text and discussing it, you will be focusing on a major theme of that work. You're still going to make a claim about what that meaning is or what that theme is in the intro paragraph, but you're going to support that theme using one literary device. And the key to doing well for this section, if you're in one of my AP Lit students, is actually establishing a relationship or a connection between the literary device and the theme itself. You can't just pick a literary device and talk about how the author uses it and how it's cool and it sounds nice and it makes the work fun to read. You actually have to connect that literary device to the theme in some substantial way. Make a case for the author using literary devices intentionally to move an idea forward. And this is going to be really good practice, not only for college level writing, but for the AP exam. Right, then after that, we'll skip a line and we have our level 3 or connection level. That means we're taking our understanding of this text one level deeper and not just talking about what the text means, but how it relates to everything else. There are lots of ways to do this, but for my class, we're going to focus on one really important connection for us. Okay, in the third paragraph of your active reading guide, you will establish a relationship between the assigned text and the biblical metanarrative. This is a concept that I borrowed from a book by Craig Bartholomew and Michael Goheen called The Drama of Scripture. Now, in this book, the two authors talk about the Bible as a singular grand narrative and one that informs our worldview, informs the way we understand and make sense of the world around us. They divide that grand narrative into 4 major concepts: creation, fall, redemption, restoration. We'll discuss these 4 acts or 4 parts of the biblical meta-narrative quite a bit throughout the course of the year. But to summarize, when we talk about creation as it's reflected in a story, we're looking for something that is inherently good, something that by nature has some goodness to it. When we talk about the fall, we're talking about actions that mar or break or twist the inherent goodness of something and make it bad. When we talk about redemption, we're looking for a singular act of sacrifice that pays the debt of the fall. It is a singular act in a story that shifts the momentum from downward to upward. And restoration, not to be confused with redemption, is an ongoing process of righting wrongs, of restoring the inherent goodness that was present at the beginning of something. Obviously, these are very rich theological concepts that I don't expect you to have mastery of at this point in the school year. But you're going to pick one of these 4 acts or parts of the biblical meta-narrative, you're going to look for ways that the assigned reading echoes the structure of the biblical meta-narrative in ways that illuminate the human condition or tell us something about our worldview. Your discussion of the meta-narrative will require you to pay particular attention to precise use of language and terminology. One of the things I often hear students say or put in their active reading guides is that the meta-narrative was the fall. I understand what you are trying to say when you write something like that, but the thing that you think you're saying is not actually what you're saying. The fall is one part of the biblical meta-narrative, and there are lots and lots of different types of meta-narrative, right? But we're talking about picking a singular component of one particular type of meta-narrative, and so you need to be precise. So instead of saying that the biblical meta-narrative of the story is the fall, you might say that this story echoes the fall of the biblical meta-narrative. The key to doing well on this paragraph is digging past surface level similarities between your story and the Bible. For instance, one character in a story murders another character in the story. Therefore, it's Cain and Abel, it's the fall. I'm done. We're trying to move past that. We need to have a richer, more deep connection to these stories and to use them to begin to understand our own worldview well enough to articulate our basic worldview assumptions. We'll talk a lot about worldview. We'll talk a lot about the biblical meta-narrative throughout the course of the year. But our goal is to begin moving past these surface level similarities and connections and actually find something that is substantial. An important piece of information here, this entire active reading guide should be at least 300 words. You'll probably be approaching a page and a half. AP students, for the time being, your requirement is 500 words or more. That's going to be well onto your third page. And of course, we're going to ratchet that up throughout the course of the year as well because you guys are special. Now, the last thing that you need to make sure that you have, because we are practicing formal writing conventions, is you need to have a works cited page. Now, I have already put together a video about how to build out a works cited page. This should be very easy for you because you probably only have 1 or 2, maybe 3 at the very most texts that you're pulling from for any given active reading guide. So it should be pretty quick for you to take the information that I've given you about those core elements and to throw together an accurate and detailed works cited entry for that. Once you have that finished, you are done with your active reading guide. And we're going to leave it there because you probably already have an active reading guide due that you may not even know about. So until next time, good luck, have fun, what a time to be alive.